I also had a place down in Delaware also. It was a second home. Because of everything that's going on down there, we sold it. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are the teachers in Pennsylvania state employees?
Are they still?
Are the teachers, are they state employees?
Yes.
Yeah.
State employees are not permitted to strike in Pennsylvania.
Tell them that.
That's
Why?
posted.
Why would we not press our elected officials to go forward with whatever penalties might be imposed upon the unions if they threaten to strike or if they do strike, which they do every year?
One of the new legislators that was just put in from York County, I watched him on TV, and he was just newly put in a special election. Scott Wagner. You got it. It was a total write-in. He won. Well, he was on the panel. And all through the discussion that was going on, he didn't say a word. He just let everybody go back and forth. So the thing was over, and last comments were questions. And they asked Scott if he would ask any questions. He said, no, I have a statement. He said, I can tell you what's wrong. Not only with the system in the municipalities, but with the problem in Harrisburg and with everybody on this committee. They're afraid of the unions. They will not stand up to the unions. When he said that, and I'm really bored when I listen to these things, but I like to listen to the other side. I mean, he sent chills down my back. That he had the guts to state this being newly elected. I know he made enemies, but he is 100% correct. And that's the reason that this kind of stuff is written. Even though it's bogus, this is what they're putting out. This is what's been offered and proposed. House Bill 76, which is the total elimination. I don't know about you, I agree with that. They need to go. Now, we hear on one side the math doesn't work. And on the other side, we say, well, we have just enough money as long as we don't count in all the revenue. The analysis on 76 states for some sections they can't predict anything. They can predict all the negatives, but they can't predict all the positives. That's point number one. Point number two, the reason the Texas study is so important is based off tax reductions they gave before. They took into consideration what would probably happen to the Texas economy. And I have a simple question for you. If the state of Pennsylvania, the working people, were giving $13 billion and put it in their pocket, what are most of them going to do with it? Is that going to drive the economy? Yeah. But now this isn't a one-time $13 billion. This isn't every year $13 billion. It would definitely drive the economy. It would bring businesses into the state. They're leaving the state because of taxes. GE and Erie, they left. They're gone. Cartech and Reading wanted to build right close to where they were at. They wanted to move it right out near the airport. No, we're not going to give you any tax breaks. They wanted to take over the Dana Corporation building that's been sitting there vacant. No, we can't give you any tax breaks. So what did they do? They're building a brand new plant in Tennessee. 1,500 workers in Tennessee are going to get a job. 1,500 people in Pennsylvania are not. And that's part of the problem. Seth Rose Bill, 1189. Optional local property tax. With the way the school districts raise taxes, would you like your local people to adjust the taxes at will on another tax? That makes no sense. Because in reality, prior to 1965, we didn't have a problem. House Bill 1685 authorized school boards to levy income taxes. How many would you like that? Why doesn't Harrisburg want to take control of the money based on the Constitution the way it was written? Why do they not want to do their job? Prior to 65, guess where all the funding came for education? Harrisburg. Okay? Prior to 1946, we didn't have a school tax at all. 1946, they put a small school tax in effect because the state had debt. And it was supposed to sunset. Supposed to sunset in 1965. That money was to pay the debt. That's why in 1953, they came out with a 1% sales tax. The first sales tax in the state of Pennsylvania. 1% for the funding of education. So in 1965, they said, oh, we're going to turn this over to local, let them keep that. We're going to take the funding of the school taxes and sales tax, we're going to put that in the general fund. And now we can say, if you got your local taxes raised, the Harrisburg thing, we didn't have anything to do with that. Totally incorrect. If they allowed it to happen, it is their fault. When Corbett says he didn't raise the taxes, baloney. Okay? Pledging. Freeze homestead property taxes. You think that'll work?
No.
The question is, has it worked? Have they not tried the Homestead Act? Have they not tried the rent rebates? I want to go into that a little bit. Options 4, targeted cost-effective property tax relief. Targeted. The state is saying, we will choose who and how gets the rebate. Is that fair? Not at all. It's discriminatory, it's profiling, and what they are doing is the reason this system has failed. The profiling and that is what is really causing the problem. Now what do they want to use that? Limited income eligibility versus universal break. Universal break, I call it overtaxation. All ages versus elderly only. Homeowners and renters and homeowners only. Refundable credit or automatically applied to bill versus separate application. State funded versus locally funded. Let me ask you a question. If the state needs this amount of money, is it better to take it from that many people or this many people? Every time they shrink that, they drive the people to paying taxes up. That is not what our government was supposed to set out to be. Actually, it was set out that there should not be a law passed unless it affected everybody equally with no special interest. That's how laws are supposed to be passed based on our founding fathers. But that's not what's happening today. Now, do they not only have a problem now with what they're doing with the homestead and the refund, now they want to start a property tax circuit breaker. And again, this is set up just like all the rest of them. Income based on taxes gives you a small percentage back. But how does that system work? This is comparing our state to other states that put circuit breakers in and all of that. If you check the taxes, the total taxes in the states, most of the ones that have tried this kind of stuff have the highest taxes. Because what they're doing is they're now authorizing somebody else and somebody else to charge you with that, instead of it all controlled by the state. Do any of you apply for the school tax rent rebate? Well, you probably know somebody that does. Okay? This was started in 1996. Okay? And since 1996, if you made more than $35,000, you couldn't qualify. In 1996. Has inflation gone up since 1996? Yeah. Has this thing ever been adjusted? No. They put it in place actually to con the people that were doing something for them. If this would have had an inflationary factor in it, this past year, if you made less than $60,000, you should have not got a rebate of $250. You should have got a rebate of $430. This has no calculations in it for inflation. Because of that, if you started this program 10 years ago, you are just as bad off now as you were 10 years ago, if not worse, because of inflation. So that was started in 1996. So what they did then is they did the Homestead Act. That started in 2006. Has that been any great benefit to any of us in this room? I laugh. Because I want to give you the concept of this. We're going to give you this money back, but where are they going to get it from to give it to you? Yeah. Just squeeze it, raise it. They actually take it out of this pocket, they take more out of this pocket, and then put a little bit of it in this pocket, and they say, oh, we're doing you a big favor. I have to laugh about that. Because of the success of all of this, just 2 years ago, a woman in the western part of the state lost her $280,000 home over a $6.30 unpaid interest bill. They took it to a judge, and the judge ruled that the sale was legal. But the school board could not document that they sent her the notices. So the Superior Court judge said, wait a minute, we're going to go re-look at this. Now what they wanted to do is the house was sold, $116,000. The $6.30 was supposed to be paid. Now who paid all the fees to get this done? Not the township, not the buyer. It falls back on the victim where the house was sold. Now, I don't know about anybody in this room, but if I would have been the judge, and this would have been in front of me, I would have sat there for a check out for $6.30. Here's your money, get out of her face. That is theft. And the judges want to say it's legal. They say all these systems work. Delinquent Tax delinquency rates in western Pennsylvania can reach as high as 25%. The Director of Finance and Operations from the Wilkinson School District routinely does not collect 20 to 25% of the $13.1 million in property taxes it levies on 5,000 parcels. Now, if they're not collecting this money, and the system, according to them, really worked, where do they get the money from? It's Jack, everybody else's. This is insane. What they state are sensible options, homestead exemptions, did that work? No. It's a joke. Income tax breaks, property tax referrals, but avoid, they say avoid, property tax caps. Now, does 76 have a cap in it? Answer is yes. School districts may only raise the taxes every year based on the cost of living in the state. That means the school district cannot raise the taxes higher than what the people are making. How many of you think that's fair? I do. So what does that do to the unions? Yeah, we can't do all of this stuff. And unfortunately, the teachers within the unions are being hurt, just like everybody here is. Think about that. They pay taxes just like we do. They're getting hurt just like we are. But they don't know it. Okay? There was a lot of good teachers, but there was also a lot of bad ones we're not going to get into. Assessment limits. Do away with assessments. They're not fair. They can be manipulated. But avoid property tax elimination. If they wanted to fix this school tax problem, this is exactly what they have to do. I'm going to get into some details on that. And this guy says, take lessons from New York. How many of you would like to move to New York to their tax system? Okay? Why did they mention what North Dakota is doing? Why did they mention what Texas is doing? Because they're giving results. Them states are giving results to the people that live in it. Lessons from New York. Their options, their sensible options, have the state increase its share of public school funding. Well, doesn't 76 put the total responsibility for the school taxes and the funding from the general fund there? That makes sense. We need oversight. Reform the property tax, rent rebate, anytime that they say reform. Okay? I think of fix the assessment system. What do they mean by fixing? Increasing is what they mean. And enact a circuit breaker. What we need to do is take a circuit breaker out there in Harrisburg and shut it down, the whole system down, until the legislators can get something right. Questions and answers. Is that it, Tom?
Should be it. Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Now, I want to touch on a couple other items. From Budget and Policy Priorities. Darren Spillman, President and CEO of the Philadelphia Educational Fund, said, "It's about choices, and we know what works." many of you believe that the Philadelphia educational system is fixed?
Depends what you mean by fixed,
This is another newsletter sent out by them. 26 states boosted funding by more than 5%. Boosted funding by more than 5%. Yeah. And it was the 26 states that's not spending what Pennsylvania's spending. Pennsylvania is, when it comes to highest in taxes, they're 10th highest. If you talk about the funding for education per student, they are also 10th. Most expensive. In other words, they're at the bottom of the list. And it's because of lack of control. Let me go back to the debt. If 76 passes, can any school district that will say, without your approval, we're going to borrow more money? No. The debt that's in place must have a sunset date. And you will still make the payment on that debt until it goes away. Now, let's think about it a little bit. If we continue to pay the debt down, doesn't the interest payments also go down? Which means that the taxes should go down. That's just common sense. Right now, they can put that on anytime they want. And that's exactly what they're doing. Setting the record straight about PA school funding cuts. Research is clear that students' performance improves with smaller classes, rigorous programs. And actually these spending cuts that Corbett gave is changing that. How many students do you think should be in a class? When I went to school, it was about 35 or 40. Okay? Actually, most of the ones I graduated with ended up fine. Now, this comes from the educational website. They need smaller classrooms. The average in the state is 14 per class. Now, when I went to school, there was 35 to 40. We had a teacher. That's it. Now, they're down at 14. Then we have a teacher. Then we have an assistant. But what are the grades the kids are getting in the state? Are they going up or are they going down? They're going down. The system is failing our kids. The majority of cuts made to classroom funding for Pennsylvania schools will remain after 4 years. Now listen to this. 54% of per student cuts in classroom programs. Now think about all the money we're spending here. Now if they are concerned about the children, why would 54% of the cuts be against the children?
Because people will cry about it.
Huh?
People will cry about it. And parents will make problems.
Yeah. But you know what the bottom line is? Now, I've talked to a whole bunch of legislators, and I want to know how much of all this money we're spending for education actually goes to children. All of them told me the same thing. 80% goes for pension and salaries.
That's right.
20% goes to the kids.
That's right. That's buildings and classrooms and lights and all that other stuff, not just education.
Yeah.
And the 20%.
80% toward pensions. Can anybody tell me what Roosevelt said about unions in government?
Never be unionized.
Huh?
Should never be unionized.
They should never be unionized. because unions, even back then, according to him, were corrupt. But we have it.
I got a question.
Sure.
About the budget. Money goes out in pension. What about the act, No Kid Left Behind? We spend thousands and thousands of dollars
Yeah, it's
on
mandated.
kids, and believe me, some of these kids cannot be educated.
I know.
I mean, you have to have a school nurse in the school at all times for some of these kids. And they're getting paid $40,000 or $50,000 a year.
See, this is where we need somebody with authority to be able to say, this is what we're gonna do and fix the system. Okay? We can't go to our legislators with this, because number one, the legislators aren't responsible for that. The school districts are, right? Now, if we put the burden back on the legislators, like it was prior to 1965, it now would be mandatory that they did this research and they did fix these problems. But what's happening today is the legislators say, well, that's local control, or that's school control, okay? The school says, no, this is legislators' fault. We don't get enough money. So we need to have one entity as oversight on the whole thing, so they can't blame everybody else.
Aren't you taking local control of the school board away from the school board and giving it to the state? Can we do that?
No,
You're not.
no. The only thing we're taking away from the school board is the ability to tax. All the other entities that the school boards have to do to run the school, that's what their job will be. But the funding will now be controlled by the state.
But the funding's a big part of their job. They have to
Of whose job?
They have to have the funding to run the school district, don't they?
Yes.
Okay, and each district is different, the dynamics in each school district is different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
So what the bill says is whatever that school district is receiving, they will receive. Next year, their increase will be based on the growth in Pennsylvania, the income of Pennsylvania growth. So if the income goes up 3%, their funding goes up 3%. Okay?
a school district that has maybe less kids and less finances will receive 3% the same as a Central Bucks school district that's huge.
They all receive the same increases. Now, the school board will have to work within a budget, just like we do.
Oh, true, yeah.
Yeah. This is what you're getting. This is what you got last year. This is the growth. This is what you're getting next year. Work within it.
That's right.
What this is going to cause is several things. When there is actually too many staffers and teachers, are they going to have to let them go? That's right.
It's an act of Congress that you have.
Right. In fact, that's what I was going to go into next.
Whose brain? Abby someone. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby normal.